Welcome everyone to our first video bourbon review we're doing with the Kentucky blog. I'm joined here by my good friend Colonel Malcolm Masters. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you.
We've got, it's our first episode on YouTube we posted up. And it's actually a special edition too. We've got a treat for the viewers here. Small bottles, we'll have bigger bottles normally, but these are some samples. Angel's Envy is a distillery out of Louisville, and they have a new product called Cask Strength. They're premiering with us, and they sent us a free sample, so we wanted to take a look and try this really kind of ultra fine bourbon, so to speak.
Well, as you know, our bourbon enthusiasts realize that bourbon is an adventure. You never get to know it all completely. There's always something new to learn about bourbon, and the bourbon industry is always experimenting with new tastes and new taste profiles. Angel Envy is an expression of that new wave of experimentation. I think Angel Envy is one of those products that's going to make it because the people that are distilling it and managing it are some of the most competent people in the industry. Lincoln Henderson for years was the master distiller at Brown-Forman, and he produced the Early Times and Old Forester brands of bourbon. Highly successful bourbon brands.
Sure.
Early Times is one of the biggest selling spirit brands in the world, and of course, Old Forester is a mainstay in the bourbon industry, particularly in Kentucky and in the South.
Sure.
At Chappie's house, Kentucky Bourbon House, which is where we're sitting.
Yep.
We make our cocktails with Old Forester bourbon, so it's we certainly favorite. And we certainly respect Lincoln Henderson. I understand he's brought his son and his grandson into the production, and they should have a very successul run.
Certainly. Well, they're starting off the regular bottle of Angel's Envy, and again, this is a small version they sent to us, which was really nice of them. Kind of the iconic angel wings on the back, the bottle made from Italy. Angel's Envy itself, as fine as it is, it's actually finished in port wine barrels, which is a unique signature to Angel's Envy. The regular bottle is 86 proof, which is pretty high. But we're going to take it up another notch from there. What they sent us is a sample of the newest product, Cask Strength. What does that mean in bourbon terms?
Well, most bourbon is sold at 80 proof in the world. There's more bourbon sold at 80 proof than at any other proof. But among more upscale drinkers of bourbon, they tend to like bourbon in the 90% range. Like Maker's Mark is 90%.
Because it knocks you back at your feet.
Yeah, it's a good jolt. And to old bourbon drinkers like me, we like the jolt. We like the bite. We seek it out. So that's something that we favor. Now, a trend that is happening in bourbon is that it's getting increasingly, at least some portion of the industry is raising the proof.
Yeah.
One thing about higher proof is the finish is a lot cleaner, a lot quicker, and so you tend to have a bourbon that gives you a nice bite, is smooth on the finish, the good ones, and this Cask Strength, you want to be careful with it because it's something you want to have a nice drink of, you want to savor it, you don't want to drink 4 or 5 drinks of it. It will put you down for the afternoon.
Oh, well, this here, it's 121 proof. It's pretty high. I'm only a little worried, not too much. Just
well, the cask proof, what that means basically is it's not cut by water to lower the proof.
Okay.
It's aged for however long it's aged. When they open up the barrel, they pour it out, and that's the way it is.
That's it.
That's
wow.
it.
It's sold as is.
So I think among aficionados, cask strength bourbons are very
Sought
much in
out.
favor these days. Yeah, they're sought out.
Sure. Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to try both. The Cask Strength is the focus, but we're going to compare a little bit. I'm sure you could already see it on the video. Just the difference in color, for one, is pretty shocking, really.
Now, this bottle is kind of interesting. When you go to the distilleries and they have an experiment going in their laboratory, they'll ship these bottles around the world to people that taste bourbon for them.
Sure.
And so I recognize this bottle as something they've picked up and put a brand name on it, which I think is very cool.
That's funny.
Now, one of the things we want to do with any bourbon, if you would pick up your glass, Paul.
Oh, certainly.
First, what you want to do is you want to look at the glass and you want to swirl it. You want to admire the legs that come down the glass.
Yeah, for the texture of the bourbon.
The higher the proof, the more the legs, and you want to see the legs and the kind of the sugary
You can tell this looks like molasses, doesn't
Yeah, it does. And of course, if you've ever had port wine is very it's thick. It's got a thicker texture.
Sure. Also, you notice the red amber color on this.
You like the red amber color, and you admire the color.
Usually, you see a lot of brown, so that red's a little different.
Well, you've got to recognize that not everyone's going to see the same thing or taste the same thing.
Sure.
Everyone's got a different palate, and everyone's got different articulation of what they see.
How much they can. Some people do. Yeah, whether it's simple or whether you're one of those that can pick out all the ingredients.
Now, the second thing you want to do is you want to let your nose do the work. It's called nosing. And the nosing aspect, you have to recognize is that typically if you smell food, it's before you taste food.
That's true.
The nose is much more sophisticated than the mouth.
For flavor.
What I always say is the nose is more sophisticated because what we say to each other a lot of times not all that clever. And so the nose is a lot smarter than the mouth.
Sure.
So then you want to take a kind of short draft. Then you want to take a longer draft. You want to try to articulate the aromas.
Got a lot of sweetness, some vanilla in there, definitely.
A lot of vanilla. Of course, with the cask strength bourbons, you're going to pick up a lot of alcohol sensations too, a lot of smells.
It'll kick you back a little bit,
You want to breathe through your nose, you want to breathe through your mouth. I'll show you a little technique, Paul, that we use when we're trying to discover bourbon. Bourbon is is about like dating. You want to get to know the brand. So
sure.
just pour a little drop into your hand.
Really?
And then rub it together fast, and you're going to smell the same aroma of the bourbon in the warehouse.
Don't do this in public.
Oh, you should. I think one of the things we have to do,
Paul, no, actually,
is we have to get over our hang-ups about sticking our nose in a glass, about smelling along the way, and because the more sophisticated bourbon drinkers, wine drinkers, brandy drinkers, they're pretty unabashed about getting to know their drink.
That's true. Well, let's say the same with the wine drinkers too. It's something you have to do. With fine bourbon, you owe it to yourself and to the distiller to really, experience all the
And then the third thing you want to do, of course, is you want to taste it. And recognize that you have sweet sensations on the front of your tongue, bitter along the back, and sour along the sides.
Right.
So take a short sip and move it across your tongue.
We're trying to first just sneak.
And see if you can articulate. You can very much taste the high proof.
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful? The finish, now what they do, I understand, is that they distill the bourbon and then they finish it in the last 3 to 6 months in wine barrels.
Port wine.
Yeah. Madeira is what they tell me they use.
That's a heck of a bourbon.
Yes. And I tell you what, my impression when I first tasted it was it was great. Girls, women love this bourbon because it doesn't have the pungent bourbon taste they normally associate.
That's true.
And may not like.
No.
They like this a lot.
There's a lot of sweetness to it for one. They get the vanilla, kind of an almond taste comes up. But the proof knocks you out. It's early in the morning. Usually I'm better than that.
Then you want to take a longer draft?
Yeah.
Again, breathe through your nose. Taste it. Enjoy it. Savor it. One of the things we do, people always ask me, what's the best way to taste bourbon for the first time? And what I advocate is you pay homage and give respect to the Kentucky bourbon industry.
Sure.
They've been making bourbon for 150 to 200 years.
It's our best heritage.
Yes, and it's a uniquely American product. In a way, it's a uniquely Kentucky product.
Sure.
Whiskey's made in a lot of places, but bourbon primarily is made in Kentucky.
Exactly.
If the first time you taste it, drink it neat, taste it, see it, nose it.
Certainly.
And then if you want to put a little water in it to open it up, if you want to put some ice to chill it down, I think that's fine.
That's what we'll do here next. You mentioned tasting your tongue. The front of my tongue, the sweet area, is just buzzing right now.
That's very sweet.
I think what I like too, it's actually a mixture of sweet and dry a little bit, but not in a bad way at all. It doesn't coat your tongue, so to speak. like a Bourbon Winkle does maybe or whatnot. But well,
this is the kind of bourbon I would drink after dinner. I put it in. I put it in perhaps into a brandy snifter.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be good that way because it's got a lot of aroma.
What are some other flavors you pick up from it?
Well, I pick up just a whole lot of candy type notes.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could tell you I was the best person in the world for distinguishing those notes. My wife could pick up 15.
Yeah.
She could smell me open a jar of peanut butter downstairs, and she's upstairs with the door closed. Women tend to be better at identifying flavors and aromas than men.
Huh.
I don't know whether that's a genetic thing, but a lot of the tasters at the distilleries are women.
Interesting. Well, let's go and try it on ice too. So, I like trying it on ice too because the water sometimes does. For a lot of bourbons, it'll actually bring the flavor out even more a little bit.
Well,
Sometimes though, it does dilute it. So we'll see.
Well, now I'll tell you what I do when I drink it with ice is I swirl it a couple times and I drink it quickly. And not in one gulp, but 2 or 3 different.
Quickly. Okay.
And that's delightful. See, I could mix a drink like that, and enjoy it for half an hour throughout the evening.
I tell you what, if with the 121 proof, you probably saw it from my reaction. It hits you. You handle it like a champ. I gotta work up towards that. But if you do, this will taste you great. If you have an issue with the high proof and the high alcohol that just knocks you back, that takes care of it. This is fine because now I can enjoy the flavor without having to worry about my health.
Paul, Kentucky Bourbon House here in Bardstown, Kentucky, we get people from all over the world, and they are so grateful when I don't try to be elitist in the way I demonstrate bourbon and have them drink it.
Sure.
If they say, that proof is just too much for me, let's drop some ice into it.
Right.
Swirl it around a couple times.
Exactly.
And they're very grateful that I don't stand on one way of doing things.
Yeah.
Everybody's palate's different.
Oh, totally.
Now, some of the lady folks around here, Paul, can knock some bourbon back. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's just, some guys like a softer version. There are some very mild bourbons out there. Some are very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
This bourbon has a great deal of aroma and a great deal of taste.
No, it sure does. It's got a complex flavor to it, but really, just on the general terms, it's sweet. It's a little dry. It's smooth. Goes down good. Like I said, it'll hit you, but if so, then put some ice in there.
It's got a sherry quality to it that I kind of like.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
now this bourbon right here is a miniature of the standard bottle.
Right.
And I really like that too. I think this will find a lot more favor than the higher proof. The higher proof is for really a connoisseur of the brand.
Sure. Let's take a quick taste of this real quick, if you don't mind. Let's see.
Let's pour this.
Just to kind of compare the difference.
Yeah.
You're dropping proof by almost 30, or over 30. So it's a big difference.
That's good. Paul, may I give you a toast?
Sure thing. First video review on the Kentucky blog.
To those that wish us well, the rest can go to hell.
I like it.
That's very delightful.
It sure is.
That's very
And it's
delightful.
completely different too.
Completely different.
I tell you, the 86.
What's the difference in the color?
Oh, it's drastic. The 86 proof, I took that whole thing back and I was fine. The 121 made me cry like a little baby. But the flavor on both, I think it's just it's a sweet, dry brand. But then there's some different ingredients they put into it. I don't get quite as much vanilla, but
Well, I think the Angel's Envy will find a lot of favor with those that like the adventure of tasting Kentucky bourbon because it's very different.
Yeah. Well, I think that's turned out really well.
Oh.
We survived one.
Yes, sir.
We're going to come back and keep producing more episodes on the channel. We're hoping to have maybe one every 1 or 2 weeks for a different bourbon at the Bourbon House. I mean, how many bottles of bourbon do you have here?
Well, I stock at the Kentucky Bourbon House in Bardstown. We stock about 75 bourbons. I don't even try to stock the bourbons that don't have a story or don't have a lot of marketing behind them because they're just not as interesting for me as the ones that do have that story.
Yeah.
And do have a lot of marketing behind them.
Understood. So we'll have some more video reviews here for you at the Kentucky Bourbon House on the Kentucky blog. So keep checking on the channel, and we'll keep you up to date.